It's almost harvesting season. Almost harvesting season.
Away with you,
season. It's almost harvesting season. Harvesting season.
Today the gods have decided on
Harvesting
Away with
season.
you, vile beggar.
That's a nice.
Harvesting.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crash Content Podcast. My name is Kyrie, and I am joined today by Mr. Eric Friggin.
I have got my mead, I have got my turkey leg, and I am ready for some medieval times.
Oh, that's pretty base. I'm also joined by Janess.
From zero to hero.
And the one and only son of Marowak.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Unfortunately, this is a sad day for me.
Ooh, and care
sad
to
days.
expound upon this?
I mean, my mother's a ghost. She's dead.
Come on.
It's a
What do you need?
recurring theme, okay. Alex, before stream.
What's up, everybody? It's me. I'm here. I'm on the podcast.
Fantastic. And WarMagic Cristiano.
Pillage and boon, my dude.
Absolutely. Sadly, we cannot be joined by Arcade Nova, the android, because he has to spend some time with his mother, because it is indeed, at the time of recording, Mother's Day. If you did not call your mother, if you did not give her some gifts, you're a degenerate. End of story.
It's also too late. Haha.
It is also too late. It's probably like 2 weeks too late.
We can only
But today, we're going to be talking about a game that is near and very, very dear to my heart. It's more of a series. It's called Mount and Blade. It is a game, and we'll talk a lot more about it, but it's a game where, above all else, you destroy your enemy, and you take their women, and you see them flee before you, and you take your lands, and like all that kind of stuff. And it's just about murder and conquering the entire world. And I would like first to just talk about everybody's experience with the game. I gave some people a few resources if they wanted to check it out. So Friggin, can we start with you? What have you heard of this game before?
I had never heard of this before.
Oh my god!
Oh,
Okay.
yep.
I had
that's gonna be
no
a
idea
common
what this
theme.
was. So yesterday I watched a bunch of Let's Plays videos of it to see what the deal is. And it looks like it's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, what did you watch?
I don't remember, like, IGN reviews and stuff like that.
Oh god,
Oh, no.
physical pain.
I'm
I
so
watched that
sorry.
too.
But just to get the general gist of what is this, so it looks like a cross between like medieval roleplay with a little bit of Dynasty Warriors type combat thrown in, but like better and based on real physics.
Fair. Jeanette, you have any experiences with this game?
Yes, a few years ago in high school, I happened to be into a let's see. Okay, so from my experience of Mount and Blade, it was watching these two Let's Plays, but it's not just like a standard Let's Play. It's more like a narrative Let's Play where you use the gameplay footage to justify a narrative. And you may not know this, but the person who made these two narrative Let's Plays was the narrator of this popular historical channel called Kings and Generals. He's officially Devon. And the first one was Narcos Treasure. And it's about a woman who lost her father in like a house burning. And she needs to recover a lost imperial treasure. That's because that was her father's last will. And this takes place in a Mount and Blade mod, that's specifically in the Mount and Blade game Warband, the Sengoku Jidai mod. And the second one that he made was called Rex Romanium. It takes place in the Rome historical mod. I assume it's to the later end of the Roman Empire, somewhere around 300 AD to 500 AD. It's about a boy at the Roman frontier who was originally a slave, but due to Rome slowly losing its hold on the frontier due to the Celts and barbarians from Scotland advancing, he was able to escape, and I haven't finished the series yet because I dropped it like years ago. This was when I was back in high school. So that's basically all my experience. It's just watching the narrative unfold, and I have to say, if you're skilled at the combat, you'll look like a pretty heavy badass, but it's not like so unrealistic that you'll be like a god. You can still fall if you have enough troops surrounding you and stabbing you and trying to shoot you with gunpowder, so you could still lose your life.
I am very happy that at least somebody is experienced with this. And I don't think... I definitely haven't heard of this guy, his channel, or his series, but you touch on a lot of key points there in terms of, like, storytelling and mods and, like, stuff we'll talk about later, which is why I love this game so much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But it's really good game. Next, Son of Marowak, you've never heard of this game before.
I've never heard of this game before. When you initially pitched it on the Discord, you said,
"Yeah, you're like, what's mount?"
Yeah, and then all you said was literally mounting a horse. I'm like, does he want to talk about like riding horses? Like, I'm into that, but okay, that's cool. We're gonna bring back My Little Pony in a whole new way.
Oh, that's right. This is Bronicast.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of this game, and I did look into it. I watched a how to start the game if you're like a newbie video, which this guy is like made a whole channel or something, or at least a whole bunch of videos based on this game, just explaining mechanics and stuff. And it sounded interesting. It sounds like a cool game where you just start from zero and you gradually progress in designing a kingdom. Or something along those lines, and that's not something I'm into. Like, I barely play JRPGs to begin with. Not that I'm saying this is a JRPG, but it's very similar. Is it a JRPG? Is it Japanese?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay, never. Yeah, so it's nothing.
Not even close.
Nothing like a JRPG, but it does have like those, role playing and like a long ass game looking kind of thing. But yeah, I'm here. I'm excited. It's cool learning about it.
I'm glad you're excited. All right, this is already turning out like just coming from limited experience, like I just assumed that everybody knows what Mount and Blade is, but I'm actually pretty excited to have a large surplus of people here that don't even know what this game fucking is, which is great. All right, Alex?
Yeah, so I had definitely never heard of this either until you mentioned it, which is no surprise. When it comes to new video games coming out, especially, I kind of live under a rock these days. Every now and then I hear about things like people complaining about Final Fantasy remakes for a total of 5 cumulative hours on a certain unnamed podcast. But
I wonder who that could be.
So when you mentioned this, and when you mentioned it, I think I looked at it enough to see the title, see the box art. I Googled it and glanced at it, and I did not realize how popular this was until just in the last day. I have done some very minimal looking into it to realize that this is actually kind of a big popular game. So the fact that there's such a disparity of familiarity with this amongst the people on here is actually pretty interesting. I think I'm excited to learn about it. From what I'm seeing in the videos that I have glanced at, I love the way this looks. I can see playing this game, just being in the game world. The things you can do, the way the backgrounds and everything are designed is very satisfying. So that's my first impression from just looking at a couple videos.
Okay, so I assume you looked at a lot of Bannerlord stuff, but you are aware that there is Mount and Blade Warband, which is like the older, like decade-old game.
That's what I've got up right now. I've got a video playing that I'm kind of looking at, and yeah. So I don't know the difference or anything, but apparently Warband is something I'm seeing.
Okay, good. And finally, Cristiano, please tell me you at least you know what this game is.
So, I mean, I did not know about this game until you mentioned it.
Oh god!
But I did end up playing the demo version, which is like you can only play at the level 9 or something on Steam. So
Was this for like Warband?
This
or
is
Mount
Warband.
Blade, or-
This is
Okay.
Warband. I was gonna try Fire and Sword, but then I looked up online and apparently it's a lot different playing Fire and Sword than
It's very
Warband.
different. It's very different.
So I decided to try Warband. Reminds me a lot of playing Star Wars Battlefront 2, surprisingly.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, I can see that.
Graphics wise. But general impressions, this game is really, really based.
Dude, nice.
Very
Very cool.
Can I, without knowing anything, is it safe to assume that you had a couple of experiences where you were killed by like forest bandits or something, and they just like completely decimated everything?
So like the first quest is to like get more units or whatever.
Yeah.
And I like walked like 5 steps out and got hit by like a troop of like 15 dudes.
Yeah.
And did not end up so.
Yeah. Okay.
I save scummed. I did not use realistic mode. I did not do the save limiting thing. But eventually I figured it out and I got a bunch of dudes, and it's pretty cool just to do battles with like a bunch of units. And I assume this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely. All right, well, I'll say it again. I'm surprised how few of you know about this game. But this just makes it all the more sweet to give you the Crash content on this game, and maybe you'll go check it out and enjoy it marginally as much as I have in my life. Personally, my experience with the game is vast. Not as vast as other people's, though.
Other people?
To be quite frank. Just other people that are fans of the series. But for me, I was first presented with this game because there was this guy on YouTube I used to watch called 1F Jeff, or Jeff Major. And in a future episode, he's also the man that introduced me to a game called Dwarf Fortress. But we'll talk about that in the coming months. But he had a Let's Play of the game. This is like 2009 or 2008
What's this guy's
or
name
whatever. 1F Jeff, Jef. He doesn't make YouTube videos anymore, but this is like 2008 to like 2013 or something. He's the love of my life. I love him very much. He's like a dad or an uncle to me, even though and he would play a variety. This isn't about him, but he'd play a variety of like Flight Simulator and like naval games, and just like as well as just like other normal games, but like a little some high IQ games, as we can say. But he
So we're saying if you don't play this game, you're stupid.
Not specifically Mountain Blade, actually. No, Mountain Blade's fine. But it was great, and so I was playing this game. He made a Let's Play of Mountain Blade, like the OG game, and then they added a few features and re-released it as Mountain Blade Warband, which we'll talk about in like the history of the game in just a minute. But I played hundreds of hours of Warband when I was like 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. And so it was formative to my childhood. This game has always been a part of my life. And then over the years, Mountain Blade Warband has just been a game that I revisit from time to time and sink in, 10 hours here, 10 hours there, replay it. Just preparing for this podcast, I played it a little bit more. It was a very great time. And you learn tips and tricks, and it becomes like home to you. Like, you know the ins and outs and everything about it. And then most recently, which is why I wanted to do this podcast anyways, is Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord has been released in beta or something after almost a full decade of all of us waiting for this game. Oh my god.
So it's like again, the Kingdom Hearts 3, like, kind of,
I don't fucking know. I don't play that game, but maybe.
Well, no, I'm saying, like, it's like the suspense. It's been, like, 10 years since 2. Now you're like, it's another sequel or something. It's like, oh my god, why is it taking this long?
It's fucking monumental. And I've already put in, it came out it had been in, like actual closed beta, but now it's out on Steam. It's been out for about a month. I've already put in like 140 hours into this game.
Nice.
Basically already gone through the entire thing. And I am extremely, extremely happy. I don't know, friggin' just left the call. That's not important. But I guess we'll talk about the history of the game a little bit. And so it was developed by this Turkish game company, I think called Paradox Studios. I don't have my notes up here. Something like that. And it just like started as like a little demo in like 2006 or something, until it was finally released, Mount & Blade, the OG game, in September of 2008. And mixed criticism, but slowly, people playing it, and it's a really unique game. There's not quite a lot of other games out there that are quite like it.
In what way?
And we'll talk about the mechanics a little bit more later as well. But really, it's just that the essence of the game is that you have an overworld map where you can move, if you've ever played the Total War games,
yep,
so Rome Total War or Shogun Total War, it's like that, basically, except instead of commanding an army from above, you are one guy, and then you also have your army. And the combat is also fairly unique. It's like quad-directional combat where you can swing left, right, up, and then like your down is like a stab. You can block, and a shield is like all block, and then there's like, if you just have a sword, there's directional block. So like if someone's swinging at you from the right, if you just have a sword, you have to block that same direction. And it's very... It can get pretty complicated, especially like with online PvP. But as far as like just like fighting regular people, it's not that complicated. But it also means that the simplicity is what drives the complexity of this game. You start out with very, very simple mechanics, but then from this you have this emergent complexity of all these amazing things that can happen in this game. And then, so Mount & Blade came out. It was alright. And they kind of added a few more things to the game. Notably, they added another faction, all of which we'll go over. The faction that they added were what are called the Saronids? I think it's the Saronid Sultanate. I'm not sure if I'm mixing up my factions from the new game, but desert people. And then they added the ability for you to start your own kingdom. And they re-released this game as Mount & Blade Warband in 2010, so like a decade ago. Almost to the T. And that game has a cult following now. Over the years, it generated a lot of things. It really... Just people love the game, me included.
Yeah.
And for a decade, nothing. But the real pain here is that September of 2012 is when they announced that Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord was going to be coming out at some point.
At some point.
We don't know when. There was, like, I think it might have been on IGN, but they had, like, a teaser trailer where they showed, like, the updated engine and them, like, pushing, like, a siege engine to breach the castle walls, and there were, like, ballista and catapults and all this new shit, and this is 2012, and it took almost 8 years since that time. I was 13 years old when they announced Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. I am now 21 years of age, and I am just now getting to play this game.
That is monumental.
People have gotten married and had children in the time.
People have died.
This game was. People have fucking died. There are boomers out there who have been waiting for this game and died of coronavirus before they got to play this game. This is a whole meme that was going on Reddit. It's actually a sad reality, probably, to someone out there.
I think it was before we started the podcast that we mentioned the essence of Mount & Blade ?
Yes.
And maybe the essence is truly that 8-year arc that we went through waiting for this game to be released.
It was the journey, not the destination.
That might be that might be an apt description, but there's so much more. There's so much more to the game.
Yeah, we need to unpack it.
I think friggin' completely missed the whole history, but it's not that important.
Yeah, my computer just straight shut down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Out of impromptu of nothing, but I'm back. I'm recording. We're good.
Basically, I just talked about how 2008 Mount & Blade regular game, and then 2010 added a few things. Mount & Blade Warband announced game in 2012, and then another 8 years until we got the second game. And in that,
That's
in that 8-year period,
a long wait. Oof.
a lot of love was put into this game.
I have one
Is that why it
question
took so long?
before you get into the bulk of it.
Please ask.
I just want to know, because you were talking about like some of the basic gameplay and how you control a character instead of like an omnipotent god of some sort. Is this game at all, aside from that one aspect, is this game at all similar to Brutal Legend? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yes. I could do a lecture on Brutal Legend, actually.
Ooh.
Like a full lecture, not a crash content.
You heard it here.
I love Brutal Legend.
First, folks.
I probably won't, but it's not quite the same because Brutal Legend is like a resource gathering, like as far as like the combat goes, for like the big battles you do. It's like resource gathering, like kind of MOBA style, like lane push kind of thing. And then aside from that, you have like overworld adventures where you go and collect stuff. This is not like that at all. As far as like, yeah, no, it's not really like that.
Wait, isn't Brutal Legend like the Jack Black?
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah.
I'm also Brutal Legend 2 is a game that's been on my mind for a long time, and I don't because it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna fucking happen.
Oh, you meant TOO.
It's gonna come out at the same time as Psychonauts 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I saw. Never mind.
So,
yeah. Please, yeah, exactly. This is not a lecture. Please interject at any moment.
So, this
Right.
does this combat system have anything to do with For Honor and their combat system, which is like the same exact combat system?
So, I think I've not played a lot of For Honor, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was influenced by Mount & Blade. Because
I
you
can see
have
the connection.
Yeah, there's a lot of like similar medieval role playing style games like For Honor, like Chivalry, like I don't know, fucking other ones that are more like arena style games. And there's definitely like people that are into these kinds of games know about Mount & Blade. And so I could definitely see a connection there, yeah. And so next we'll talk about like I said, I'm just gonna jump right into like the features, what the game's all about.
Ooh, quick before that.
Yeah.
Regarding that 8-year gap and just the studio and the developers,
yes.
I see that they're a Turkish indie studio.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, during that time, did they have other projects? Are they a very profitable company? Were the people like really this is their job and not like a side project? Or what other irons in the fire did they have going, if any, while they were doing this, or that sort of thing regarding the development? Was this like all they were doing for that time?
They do. Okay, so they do have other games. I think I'm actually like I'm not sure because so like it was published by a like overarching Swedish studio, and I don't know how that works. Like the really answer your question is I don't know. Because they are, like you said, they are like a smaller Turkish indie game developer, and Mount & Blade was like their first title. It was started just by like the guy and his wife, and he was like, I kind of want to do this thing. And then from there, it turned into something else. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was something like after the success of Mount & Blade Warband and like this whole community that formed around it, and they're like, oh, this is great, we have to make another one, Mount & Blade 2, and they like veiled that in like IGN in 2012, and then they were like, okay, there's a lot we want to do here, and I don't know if we have the manpower for this. Like, we've only made like the one game in like a shittier engine. Like Mount & Blade Warband has an aesthetic, but it doesn't look good. Okay, it doesn't look good.
Just gonna point out that the developers literally have only made Mountain Blade games. I'm looking at
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at that now
Yep.
too, and that's interesting. I'm wondering.
Yeah, so as far as their studio, then yeah. And so there might be some kind of like experience, resource, supply line here that gets mixed up. There's developer logs that have been on YouTube for a long time, but I don't know as much about the development process. Okay. So I wish I outlined how to talk about the game because there's a lot of things to cover here.
Just
but
start from the
essentially,
beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So you start off and you create a new character. You are greeted by the title screen where there is a strong, what looks to be like Viking man holding a sword, and there's trumpets that go ba 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 ba, and like
Yeah, very immersive.
it's amazing. And then there's like some strings do 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 do, and it's amazing. And you click start new game, and you go through a process where you kind of start your background. So you're hit with role playing elements from the right at the get go. As it'll turn out, these role playing elements don't fucking matter at all besides your stats. And they don't tell you what the stats are. You just kind of have to pick. And it's something like, you were born to like street urchins or like steppe people or like to like a wealthy family in the kingdom. And then like as
What exactly are steppe people?
Steppe?
I saw that a couple times.
So the steppes, it is specifically in reference to like Central Asia, and the steppes are like flat plains that increase in elevation. So like Mongolia, Kazakhstan, like kind of western provinces of China. And steppe people ride horses. They are a horse culture. So you have, like I said,
like
like
the cow.
The cow?
The cow from Game of Thrones.
The cow.
The horse people,
the
basically.
the
The Dothraki.
The Dothraki.
the Dothraki.
sorry.
Yes, the
I'm sorry.
Dothraki are
I'm thinking that's the
representative.
King is a cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cow,
They are representative
cow
of a steppe
yeah.
people in Game of Thrones for sure. And so you have like the Huns and the Mongolians and like all that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you just go through like you were like a squire or like you went to college or you worked in a blacksmith, just like tech stuff. It just gives you stats.
The one
then,
thing I heard when
Mhm.
on a video I watched is you have I don't know if it's the same game or just in general. You have a choice of picking either a male or a female, and if you pick the female,
yes.
it is essentially.
Oh yes. So
Yep.
a big
It's all
draw.
about that strength stat.
Yeah, a big draw to the Mountain Blade games is it's like historical fiction. And so it is representative of kinds of historical things that have happened, but it's tied in a different kind of world. And so there are parallels to history here, but it's not like exactly the same thing, except for with Fire and Sword, but we'll talk about that later. And so you have the option to pick male or female, as you do in any role-playing game, mostly. Except if you pick female, you are by far worse off. And it will tell you this if you select female. It'll tell you, are you sure you want to do this? This is a bad idea. And Mountain Blade, like, the game has come under scrutiny for this idea, but basically it's like you are playing in, like, feudal medieval society where there are wars going on. And historically in this, if you are a woman, it is a lot fucking harder to, like, become a general and, like, lead armies, which is this game is all about, and to, like, have lands and to get castles and to attain the respect of other nobles. And so if you play as a female, people will be like, what the fuck are you doing in front of me, woman? Like, leave out of here, and they will hate you for it. And your strength stat will be lower and you'll be worse at combat.
That's really interesting, actually.
Not because I'm sorry.
If they managed to do like a at all realistic portrayal of the difficulties you would face as a female, somehow managing to accomplish these things in those times, that's actually I'm curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are people that are like, ooh, but it's a role playing game. I want to like role play as like just a powerful badass woman, and you can do that, and you can also just like mod out like the penalties you get for being a woman. But as far as like realistic historical fiction, that's an element of the game. And so you get into the character screen.
Realism above all else.
Yeah. And you have basic stats: strength, agility, endurance, intelligence, charisma. D&D stats, kind of. I think there's a luck stat too. That's just like the special Fallout stats. And then you have like some skills like Iron Flesh, which is for like how much damage you can resist. Like Power Strike, which is for one-handed and two-handed weapons. Power Draw, which is for like bows, throwing skill. And then like other miscellaneous skills like Leadership, which affects how big of a party you can have. Prisoner Management, Inventory Management. Very RPG-like. And then you have weapon skills: one-handed, two-handed polearms, bows, crossbows, throwing weapons. And then there's a secret hidden firearms skill. Hint, hint. We'll talk about that later. Even though there are no firearms in the game, technically there is one, a pistol, but you cannot find it anywhere in the world. It's just in like the dev files. And then you name your character, you create them, and then you have like your slider face creation thing where you can try to make him look normal or just completely fuck his shit up and make him look like an absolute crazy goblin person.
I was looking at that earlier. The sliders are funny. You have like a hair color slider. You have like a face shape, like nose.
There's an age slider, so you can be an old ass fucking man if you want to.
Does that affect your stats that matter, or just your appearance?
No, actually, you can. So once you create this character, you have like a character sheet where you go and like you level up and put points and things, and you can just click on your character and change your appearance and name at any time.
You can get younger as you go.
Yeah, literally. I would do and I do this to this day. Like as I am on my campaign throughout the years, I'll make my guy's hair and beard grow out longer, and he'll get older, and like all this kind of stuff. And I don't think there really is aging in the game. But then, as soon as you do this, you are randomly. It's not random. It's depending on your systems. But you're in some capital city, and you're out there. All you have is a crossbow and a shitty sword and like a shitty wooden shield. And you're put into this town, and you walk down the street, and you get mugged. A fucking guy runs at you with a knife, and he's gonna kill you. And this is your first introduction to combat. Your first introduction. You have to kill this man. If you don't kill him, you're bad at the game. Literally, all you have to do is shoot him in the head with the crossbow, or you learn as you go.
Yeah, I remember seeing this on the video. Like, I thought it was like kind of like, what the fuck is like? You go from like the title screen to some like, you pick your choices, and then suddenly you're playing the game and you're shooting at a guy. It's like there's like nothing in between that. It was funny.
Yes, you're introduced to the RPG elements, and then immediately you're introduced to the combat.
If you miss that crossbow shot, it's over.
Kinda, yeah. If you can't, crossbows do suck. Don't use crossbows. But then you kill the guy, and then as you do, a merchant comes and he goes, "Oh, yeah, it's crazy. I hope you're okay. Come back to my house and suck my dick," or like whatever. And you do that. You go to his house, and he's like, "Hey, I have a quest for you. This is your first introduction then to the quest mechanics. There are quests in this game. They don't matter. So what you do is he tells you to go get men, and you say, 'Fuck you, no,' and you don't do his quest."
What happens if you do his quest?
If you do his quest,
that's not fair.
That I'm not sure if that actually happens, but it's like an introductory quest of the game. He tells you to go out and recruit men from the villages, which again, introduction to a key mechanic. And so the world, you live in a place called Calradia, which is basically Europe. And there's the overworld map, and you can zoom out and see the entire world, very reminiscent of the Total War games. And you will see that there are some names of some cities, some names of some castles, and some names of some villages. These are the 3 locations on the map. And then there's like bandit hideouts and stuff. But castles, towns, and villages. And the villages are actually called fiefs. And so basically, the gameplay loop is you go to village, you recruit volunteers from village, and so you get peasants or like whatever recruits. You go, you fight people, And then your men die, and the ones that don't die, they become upgraded into other units. And you just keep doing this until you get a bigger and bigger army, and you can kill more and more people, and then eventually you conquer castles and towns, and then eventually the whole entire world, and you kill everybody. And this is the game.
Ah, so you become the next Genghis Khan.
Yes! And,
Except not as cool.
Yeah, I think that's like the end point of the game, basically, but there's so much in between.
Literally the point of the game is to kill?
Literally the point of the game is to kill people, yes.
Okay.
You can do other things, but this is basically what the game is.
Okay. I guess it's
you-
fitting that the game starts with you shooting a crossbow, though.
Yes. And so on the map you will notice this is Mount & Blade Warband we're talking about, you'll notice some colors. And these colors are representative of the different factions, which are correlated to different European powers. So you have the Nords, which are like the Swedish Vikings, and they have Huskarls and really good like infantry troops. I don't think they have any cavalry, what to speak of. This is another important point. There are 3 types of units in this game. There are cavalry, archers, and infantry. And you use these accordingly. There are also horse archers, which are specific to the Khergit Khanate, who are the steppe people. And they're the horse people. And so they have their horse units. Horse archers is one of them. They don't work that well in this game without mods, because they just like charge in. And they don't like do the circle around thing that they do in history. And so they're kind of shit without mods, but whatever. And then you have the Vagers. And the Vagers are the Russian boys. They live in the snow, and they have the best archers in the game, the Vagar marksmen. And they're always at war with the Nords, and they hate each other. And that's that. And then you have the Saranid Sultanate, who are kind of like the desert Muslim Empire group of people. So they have like their turbans, and they're from the desert, and they have their the Caliphate is what I was thinking of. And they have heavy armored horses, and just like good general overall units. And then you have the Rhodoks. And my history is failing me here. I don't know exactly what the Rhodoks represent. Maybe like Italians or something, and the Swedes. I don't fucking know. But they have big shields and spears and crossbows. And they're really good at castle defense. And then finally, you have the worst faction of all, the Swadwads. The Swadians. And these are... this is just like the general, like, European knightly faction. And so they have Swadian knights and like Swadian ground troops and also crossbowmen and bowmen and stuff. And they're like the vanilla faction, basically, if you have a Eurocentric view of the world like me, I guess. But also of the game, because they're right in the middle of the map. And this is where you start. And so
it seems like you kind of have like all these political leanings of the different factions before you start and you're just kind of tossed in there to screw everything up.
Yes. So like you start off.
Oh yeah.
You don't know anything. There basically is no story to the game. There are quests. There are things you can go do tangentially, but it's basically a sandbox. And you just go and you fucking figure it out. You get killed by bandits. You get taken prisoner. They take all of your stuff. They rape you in the ass. And this is before you realize that you're playing on the easiest settings. And you take a quarter...
The easiest setting.
You take
Wait
a quarter
till you find out
damage.
where they rape you on the hardest settings.
Absolutely. And so it's survival of the fittest. You're thrown out there and you learn or you die. You never die. You're just taken prisoner.
In this sandbox where all these political factions are against each other, are you able to join one of them?
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Janess, because yes, as a matter of fact, all of these factions are constantly making war and making peace with one another. And so each of the factions, each of the factions has a king. So there's King Harlaus of the Swadwads. There's King Ragnar of the Nords. And then there's Sultan, whatever the fuck, other guys of the other four people, the Vigors and everything, and they have vassals, and so they have knights, and they have, is it caliphs? I can't remember. They have like different titles for like each of the factions, and then these vassals hold castles and fiefs, and they build armies, and they go out and they fight each other. And they take over each other's castles. And so there's a very organic way that the game progresses, where at first everybody just has their own territory, and anything can happen. Maybe the Swadwads take over the entire map in like 10 hours. Maybe nothing ever happens in 500 hours. Who knows? And it's up to you to support one of them if you wish. You can pledge your allegiance to one of the rulers and become one of their vassals and join their armies as you fight the hordes of the other people, and maybe if you take a castle, you'll get it. Probably not, though. Here's the key dynamic of this game, is that you get killed, you recruit men, they die, you die, everything is taken from you, you're broke, you start all over again. You recruit people, they die, but this time they get better. You make money. You discover the economy. The economy is a very important part of this game. And so every town sells things. An important resource in the game, this is also how you will discover that the towns sell things, is weapons, armor, and food. You need to feed your men food. So you need bread, you need grain, you need dried beef, there's grapes, there's dates, there's butter, which we'll get to. We'll get to the butter, okay? And the more variety of food you have, the morale of your men increases. If you have low morale, men will start to desert your party. But you may notice...
Wait. Can you kill deserters?
I believe so, yes. I think as deserters, they might just disappear from your party, but I'm not sure if they like spawn off on the map as like a deserter party. There are like literal deserters that roam around the world, and when you encounter them, you say like, oh, you're fucking, you brigand, you're dishonorable, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and then you kill them.
So I just want to clarify with how the player relates to the different factions. Whether or not you are serving a faction, what you definitely are doing is like forming your party and gaining your people, and you may or may not be helping out some other bigger guy with his country or whatever.
Yes, you do not have to pledge allegiance to any vassal.
And if you do, you can like... That's not permanent, or is it intended to be?
It's not permanent. You can leave the kingdom, but if you do that, everybody in that kingdom will hate you.
They're just gonna kill you, yeah.
They won't kill you if you're not at war with them technically, but they will, like, your relation with them will decrease, which is like a stat.
Got it. Yeah, it sounds like the replay value on this is really high.
It is
from everything
insane. It is insanely high. We'll talk about mods, and we'll talk about multiplayer, and we'll talk about mischief in a second. But the economy, okay, you discover that when you go to a town, you can ask for trade rumors. And so the merchants of the town will give you rumors about where one good may be priced more than another good, and where a good may be cheaper. And there are lots and lots of different things you can sell. There's tools, there's silk, there's jewelry, there's furs, there's lumber, there's all these different goods. And another integral part of the game I have not mentioned yet is the caravans. Each kingdom has caravans, which physically, on the map, move from one city where they're carrying goods, and then travel across the map to another city, and then sell those goods for a profit. And you can ambush these caravans for a hefty profit, which is what they often do.
Do they carry rare materials?
Yeah, not like rare materials, but just like stuff that they are selling. There's nothing you can get from a caravan, I don't think, that you can't get from just buying from somewhere. And so you learn that you can make supply runs, basically. You buy furs for like 80 gold one place, you travel across the map, takes like a few days, and you sell for 200 gold somewhere else. And then you start getting money, because money, and the money is gold dinars. They are very important.
I have a question.
Yes.
And you said like days. How does the time work in this?
Okay. So, as you are traveling across the overworld map, so when you're standing still, the game can just be paused. You can also have the game running, but like, press the space bar and it's paused. And as you click somewhere to move, you will start to run with some speed. Your army is just representative of you, and then like a number overlaid on top of how many men you have. And you travel at some speed. Traveling through forests and through snow and through mountains decreases your speed. These kinds of things. And just as you move, a day-night cycle progresses. And so, like, if you're just regularly moving, like, a day passes in, like, 20 seconds or something, or something like that.
Okay, so it's realistic. It's like, if no matter how far you're traveling, there's a realistic time frame that the game will abide by.
It takes a certain amount of days to travel from one place to another. And so, like, as you're playing this game, like, days, months, weeks, and years will pass in actual time in this fictional world. This historically fictional world.
Let me see if I've got this straight. You're saying there's a certain amount of time. If you travel a great distance, that's going to take 10 days or a month or however. But it could be... Is this right that it's like it might take the same amount of time in real world you sitting at your computer time to get from one place that's close to one place that's far, but a different amount of in-game time would pass? Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I don't know quite what you mean by that.
So I try to travel somewhere. And in real life, I'm looking at my watch, and traveling there takes 30 real seconds in the real world.
Yeah.
But like 2 days pass in game time. And then I travel somewhere else that's much, much farther. So real world, real time, looking at my wristwatch, 30 seconds, but this time like a month passes in game time.
Yes. I mean, so basically like the world map is just Europe. Like it goes from like West Coast Europe to like all the way north Scandinavian Europe to like south Italian Europe, and then east like Turkish, like Ottoman desert Europe. And it's vaguely the same shape. It's not the same thing. And then there's like steppe people like past Ukraine theoretically, I guess. And so like traveling from one place to another would in real life take a long time, but the day-night cycle passes very quickly. Yeah.
But it's not like fixed to real world real time. It's like if you do different things in the game, time can pass faster or slower depending on.
Yes. And so like you can stay in towns. And you can wait there for some time, in which you will regain health, and your troops will regain health. And maybe they'll gain some experience, maybe not, that kind of thing. And you can just wait. And you can also camp just out and about. And I hope that's an alright overlay of the game so far, to give you like kind of an idea. But really, what we haven't talked about yet is the main point of the game, which is the killing. Oh, the killing. The killing never gets old. So...
It doesn't?
Oh, no, it does not get old. Maybe you need to spice up your life a little bit sometimes, but in general, I don't think it gets old. So the way that the combat works is that as you're on this overworld map, again, if you've ever played any Total War game, you go, and if you encounter another party, which is just representative of like a single guy on a horse, or just like a guy walking around on the map, and if you initiate combat with them, then you are loaded into like a zone, like an actual like you're first person. You can see all of your troops around you in physical form, and you fight. And so there are. All the zones like are dependent upon where you are on the map. So if you're in the desert, you'll load into a desert. If you're in the mountains, you'll load in the mountains. If you're in the forest, you'll load in the forest. If you're in the snow, you'll load in the snow. And basically, Some of the zones repeat, but in general, in this game, it's pretty good about being like where it is on the map. And so you have to use the terrain to your advantage. You have to set your archers up on a hill. You have to set your men in a line in front of them. You get your cavalry to follow you as you charge around and try to skirmish with your opponents and weaken them. And then, or you can just not do anything and have everybody just charge and run and try to kill the other guy. And generally...
Have you found a particularly effective strategy in battle? Like, what works the best?
Of course. So, in general, the strategy that you do is you just get as many cavalry as possible and you just charge at them. Or that's kind of a meme answer, really, but like, it was as I was describing, like, you take your archers, you set them up on some high elevation place, you set your infantry directly in front of your archers, and then you take your cavalry, you go, you pick off a few stragglers, you kill them, you get, some kills. And as the enemy army approaches your front line, your archers fire upon them. And as they get close enough, then you send your infantry out, your infantry charge. You take your cavalry, you try to take them from behind, and you generally try to kill them. It does not...
So very much like a historical medieval combat.
Yeah, so in order to accomplish this, you do need to use like the in-game infantry controls, which in this game are not that good. It's basically just like F1 infantry stand where I'm currently standing, advance 10 paces, hold fire, charge, retreat, those kinds of things. And by default, all of your men will just run at the enemy.
Hell yeah.
Which is how most people play the game. Or not most, but like starting out, yeah. And so, essentially, you do this, and as you do, you level up skills, and you level up your base level, and you can put points into strength, intelligence, endurance, charisma, intellect, luck, and more points in like power draw. And you'll discover that certain weapons require certain skills to equip. So a better bow requires you to have more strength and more power draw. A better sword requires more power strike. Better horses require better riding. And so you just organically progress. You start by killing looters and bandits. And then you raid bandit hideouts. And then maybe if you're a dickhead but playing optimally, the optimal way to play this game is to just pillage fiefs and pillage villages. And when you do that, you declare war, but you get a lot of shit from it. And you also like people hate you, but you get a lot of money. So, and then there's also
question.
Go ahead.
If you're like a terrible person, are you like constantly berated like in the open world at all? Like,
no.
Okay.
Relation has like some. Relation's a mechanic where, like, if you want to, like, ask somebody for a favor, or, like, if you want to marry their daughter, which you can do, or, like, there's just, like, general nobles around. So you can go to a town and you go to the castle or the keep, and if somebody's there, they're in the town, then they'll be in the keep, and you can just walk up to them. There's, like, no dialogue options, really, though. It's, like, all very basic stuff. All the meat of the game happens on the battlefield, really. And, like, in the mechanics of the economy, both the troop economy and the actual resource economy of the game. And so, I didn't really mention this, but part of the way the economy works is that the villages produce resources. And so, if you have a village or a fief that is near a town or a castle, those resources will be cheaper. Things you can't produce will be more expensive. Supply and demand, caravans, money. And it's all very organic, and it's all amazing. And eventually you get to a point where you have the best armor and the best swords, and you can just cleave through your enemies and
be unstoppable.
And eventually you may this is a key part of the game where you pick which faction you enjoy the most. Is it the Slav boys? Is it the Viking boys? Is it the vanilla European boys? The throat singing boys, the desert boys, or like the shieldy boys? And then you fight for them. You join an army, which is a mechanic where one person like starts an army, and then other vassals on the map go to them and join them as a force. And so you get parties of like, each person generally has like 150 to 200 men is like a good standard. And you can join an army, and then maybe you'll have like 400, 600, 800 men. And all of these people individually should show up on the combat or on the battlefield. I think in Warband there's a limit to 150 people on screen or like 300 people on screen or something like that. 150 both sides. And as you kill them, like more will spawn if they have more in reserve. And so we're getting to the end of the cycle of the game here, where what happens is you join an army, you take over a castle, and this is the other part of the game, which is sieges. Each castle, each town has its own like model. Maybe there's some repeats for like castles, I'm not sure, and then I think it's kind of random, but you build siege equipment. Building siege equipment is reliant on the engineering skill and may take anywhere from 2 days to a week. And there's food. You can starve out people in a castle if they don't have enough food. This never really happens. And then you storm the castle. And so there's ladders up on the walls. Sometimes there's like a siege tower that you push. And then all the men just walk basically shoulder to shoulder on the ladders. And they're pushing each other off the ladders because their pathing AI is ridiculous. And sometimes it's really hard to get up there. And they just full frontal just walk onto the walls, facing all the enemy men that are on the walls. And really what you'll notice in your first siege, if you've not noticed it before on the battlefield, is that everybody is yelling all the time. Whenever anybody attacks, they go, "Ah! Yeah! Die! Oh!" Like constantly.
So it's just like 100 of those at any given time.
Yes, kind of like 100 of those constantly, just all the time, and then people making die noises.
Gradually fading out, getting less and less as everyone dies, and there's
and then you hear
historical realism.
You hear arrows flying, people getting shot. Sometimes you get a level up skill. We get like a crash cymbal noise when you like get a skill level up.
Oh man, I bet the get hit by an arrow noise is really funny. You're just playing all
just only
literally the getting hit by an arrow noise is very like it's a very impact noise. Like you hear that and then just like and like you get fucked and your guy staggers and you lose a lot of health. And it's fantastic. And the more people you kill, the more blood you get covered in, and it's basically just like a red texture. But at the end of it, really, the meta of sieges is what you do is you wait until like 20 of the men have gone up on the ladder. You follow behind them, and as they're like trying to break the line and get through up there, what you do is you just go through. You jump off of the wall. You walk up the stairs, you walk behind the enemies, and then you just start fucking cleaving them in twain with your sword and just killing like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of them, and you just become covered in fucking blood. And at the start, you should take care. Usually I have a bow. Bows are very good. Mounted archery in this game, there's a lot of inaccuracy, but when you're standing still, you pick off the archers on the wall so they don't kill your men. And then you do that. And after all of this work, you get the castle. You're part of an army, so you don't get it. And you go, man, I have an interesting idea. What if I had like 200 men, which is a lot actually for your leadership skill, but you have enough men, and you see a castle, and it has like the same amount of men, and you're at war with this faction, and you go, gee, I wonder if I take this castle, if I'll get it. And so you do it. And you take the castle, and then your king goes, this castle goes to Count Fuckface. And you go, what the fuck, man? I took that castle, and I should have that castle. And so you repeat this process like 3 times until like you only have so many men left. You're broke. You've taken all these castles for your king, and he's given you none of them. And so what you do is you defect.
Yep,
and then you start your own kingdom, and you fucking rise up. This This is the start of it, and you make your own kingdom. Your kingdom color is blood red, and you name your kingdom. And another thing I failed to mention is there's companions in this game, which are special units you can find in towns. Yeah, they're the same as you, where they have like a character sheet, and so they add party bonuses. And so if you have somebody that has like a high medicine skill or surgeon skill, then your troops will heal faster. You hire a guy that has good engineering skill, you build siege equipment faster. And they're like, and you can equip them with weapons and armor and stuff in the same way that you would equip yourself, give them horses and stuff. And they're named. And then eventually when you become a king, you can have them start their own army, and then they'll go and do stuff. And you can also like recruit vassals. Like other vassals can also defect. Like when a kingdom is completely swallowed up by another kingdom, let's say the Nords just completely decimate the Vaegrs, as they always do, and they just take over the whole north of the map. All the Vaegr vassals, a lot of them will defect and then join the Nords. And this can just happen. This can happen with you as well. And so you can kill your enemies, and you can have them join you. And then eventually, you slowly grow until you wage war against the entire world. And then you get into a groove where you're just out there and you have your army and you fight, and it's like 200 versus 200, or you have an army, and you're on your steed, your trusty steed, and you lance men through the throat, and you just cleave them in twain, and you shoot them in the head with your bows from horseback, and you're just...
Keep going, I'm going.
Oh, you're just soaking in fucking blood.
Yes.
Just blood spilling on the battlefield everywhere. At this point, you have killed thousands of men by your own hand. And you take over the entire world. And then what do? Then you start, and
then you turn on your own people.
That's interesting that you say that. I'll talk about that later. I'm not sure how that works in Warband, but and then you start a new game is what you do. You start it all, and you do it all over again.
Do it again.
And this is essentially what Warband is. It is economy. It is numbers. It is growth. It is replayability. And above all else, it is about murder. And screaming. So much screaming.
I mean, this game sounds a lot less like a traditional video game and more just like a, kingdom simulator.
It really is. Like, there are not a lot of other games out there that I know of that are very similar to this game.
The scope, kind of.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of role-playing ability here, because it's so open. Like, the mechanics are so simple that there's all this complexity, but like I said, there's not really a main quest. Dialogue options with characters are extremely barren. They basically have no personality. They all say the same lines. They just look different. And so it's kind of up to you to implant your own will and story and personality onto this world and play it as you see fit. Play out dramas. You take castles, you lose castles, things happen, you imagine the relationship between different characters.
Can you play this game
happen.
benevolently?
What do you mean by that?
Like, instead of being like a murdering bastard, can you just be like a good guy who just like makes his own kingdom from the ground up?
I mean,
he wants the pacifist.
To make a kingdom, you do have to kill people.
All wealth is built on literal blood.
Yeah,
in
you can,
all realities.
What you can do is
it's more direct in medieval times.
This game is actually the perfectly architected libertarian fantasy. We could have this in real life if we abolish all government.
Yeah, like you can technically just be like a merchant, and like you can play the game however you want. But murder is highly rewarded.
So you can just like do nothing
yeah.
and set up a little hut and like keep to yourself in your hut while nothing happens.
I mean,
if
Probably
you
you
can't,
trade.
you
If
can't
you really wanted.
build anything, but you could just like camp on a corner of the map if you really wanted to.
I'm about to play this
Um,
game just for the Yashike feels of riding through the plains and observing the landscape.
It's
which
very
I love.
aesthetic. It's a great feeling. There's many different lives I've lived in this game, and so that's the base game.
Yep, the base game.
The base game. Okay, this is, we're talking no mods here. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But does anybody have any thoughts they want to share before I go on and I talk more? Because we've only talked about, like I said, just the base game.
So from the very beginning, your tutorial where you stab that guy in the market, all the way to I am king of the world, about how much in-game time does that typically take? Like
Boy.
5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Oh, in-game time?
Yeah.
I'd say 5 to 20 years is like a good range. Depends how good you are at the game. Well, what's
Now, how much real-world time does that take?
again? So the speed run for this game of conquering everything is 9 hours, and I'd say in general, in order to take over the entire map, if you start without knowing anything about the game, it might take upwards of like 150 hours.
Damn.
Dang.
If you
That
if
is a
you
long
don't
game.
know what you're doing,
Yeah.
yeah. Taking over the entire world is not like something every player does. It is just like the end point of the game, basically. And like at that point of the game, you have thousands of troops, you have all the best armor and weapons in the game, all your skills are up, you have millions of gold dinars, and you just rule everything. And you start from just a little fuckboy that will die if he gets shot in the face with an arrow.
Well, you know, the way this
So
game
this is
should
like-
end is like the Black Plague goes through the entire country.
There are no
Everyone,
disease
like,
mechanics,
Third
but
of your country dies, and you have to start from scratch.
I'm
You
sure
should have
there's a
the
mod for
option to
that.
make that happen if you want to start from scratch. There should be just like a Black Plague button.
Do not press.
So, Kyrie, if you had to guesstimate, how many hours have you spent on this game in your life?
See, it's hard actually for me to guesstimate because on Steam I have less than 100 hours in Warband, but that's only because I played most of it on my iMac that I had in my kitchen, and I just like downloaded the game like not on Steam, just as the game. But Warband, let me think here. Because this is also one of those games, and I don't know if other people have the same experience, but whenever I play like a progression game that is like Sid Meier's Civilization or Total War or this game or like World of Warcraft to an extent, but not quite, but like Dwarf Fortress is also like this, you just pour in like 8 hours at a time. Like, you start playing at like 4 o'clock and you're like, I'll play for like an hour and a half maybe, and then it's 3 in the morning and you're like, whoa, fuck.
Yep, that's a good idea.
That's one of these games. And so, it's probably at least 2,000 hours. 1,000 to 2,000 hours. I can't quite tell, but a good amount.
I think that's a pretty healthy amount for a game you really love over the course of like 8-9 years, right?
Yeah.
What is it they say? Like 1,000 hours makes you an
That's-
expert
that's
on something?
10,000.
Or is it
10,000.
10,000.
Malcolm,
You're a fifth
we're
of the
Being
way there to
lectured
being
by
a
someone who's
master.
only 1/5 of an expert in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
game.
yeah.
I can't believe it.
Hey, not a lecture, just crash content, you know.
Well, I guess that's why it's a
Ma-
crash.
Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers popularized this idea, and many people have come out and saying that's bullshit, but you know.
Yeah, it's not a scientifically arrived at thing. It's just kind of like a sort of a made up rule of thumb that has
regardless-
anecdotal support anyway.
Yeah, regardless, good book. There is like a lot of like statistical like bias and multicollinearity there, where it's like when you're talking about experts, they will tend to have put in a lot of time in something in general. Anyway, we're not talking about that book, but yeah, great game. I fucking love it a lot. Anything else before I go on to my next topic here?
So in my couple hours of playing this game, so there seemed to be a big deal about political marriage of some sort. Because there was an NPC that was
deal.
The only way you're moving up is if you're gonna political marriage somebody.
Okay. So that's because you probably started the game as a non-noble. Maybe you picked the street urchin option. Maybe you were a blacksmith. But this is another thing in the game where you have the peasants, the serfs, the farmers, and then you have the elite ruling class, the counts and the kings and the vassals, and they are nobles, and they are in the Lord's keep. And if you are not a noble, everybody will make sure to remind you of this at all times.
Okay.
Those bastards.
And the only way you can become a noble is if you marry a noble. And this is also hard because there is romance in this game, where like I said, all of the vassals have families. There are daughters, there are relationships, and so you can go and you can find a lovely lady and you can say, "I'm your secret admirer." And if you are a non-noble, she'll probably say, "You're a dirty fucking pig. Leave here immediately. I do not want to speak with you." But maybe you'll find one who is tolerant of your advances. And then what you have to do is you have to go and you have to find books of poetry and recite poetry to her and buy her flowers and buy her a nice dress. And maybe your relationship with her will slowly advance to the point where she will begrudgingly marry you and then you are now a noble. or if you're a noble Chad, they'll just fall into your arms. You may still have to do the poetry anyways, but you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say black pill joke, but also, do they care about your success on the battlefield and whatnot, and your accrual of wealth or whatever else you can do?
It's been a while since I've heavily involved myself in these mechanics. I can't remember. I know there are a lot of vectors of measurement in this game, and so I think honor is definitely one of them. You get renown and you get honor for things. So if you win a tournament, you get notoriety. I can't remember the exact word for it or the mechanics, also because I'm conflating mechanics in the new game that I've been playing recently. But you do get notoriety by doing notable things in the world. And so the more battles you win, the more fiefs and castles and towns you have, and the more tournaments you have won, your name will get out there and people will start to recognize who you are. So for example, as far as this pertains to relationships, maybe it matters. I'm not really sure, but it's all the dialogue in this game, which everything is based off of, is just numbers in the background, but then it's tied to certain dialogue responses, of which there are maybe 3. So for example, usually when you start out and you go and you click on a Lord's party, and you can go you talk to him, he will say if it's your first time meeting him, you're who goes there? What is your name? And you can say my name is X, or mark down, my name is this. You'll be hearing a lot from me in the future, bitch. Which doesn't really matter which option you choose. But then they'll say, I'm Count Fuckface. And if your notoriety is high enough and you meet somebody for the first time, they'll go, you're Count Boy. I heard you won that battle at the castle of wherever. Oh, it's nice to meet you.
Sick.
But not a lot of things happen. It's just flavor text based on number, really.
So also with regards to marriage, can you have mistresses and secret 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 11th marriages that
I don't
people
think
don't
so.
know about? Oh, God damn it, that would be fun.
I'm sorry, I don't think
Juggling
No,
all that
you
crazy.
unfortunately cannot have a harem.
so. Yeah, I don't remember if you can have children either, honestly.
You could marry into
Yeah, that is a good point.
marry the nobles in each individual faction and just become
Yeah.
the ultimate horrible keystone.
Yeah. So, on this continent, does all the towns and villages just have a generic layout, or are they unique according to their nation?
They're unique for sure. So like if when you're walking around Praven, which is like the capital of the Swadwads, it's like very, castle-y Central European architecture. People are walking around wearing like the clothes of Central Europeans. And if you go all the way to like the Serenid Sultanate in the desert, and you walk around the city, I can't remember the capital, not Sargoth, fucking Shariz, the capital of the Serenid Sultanate. It's like made out of like a it almost it's like a limestone clay kind of like structure. And people are walking around in like thobes and like turbans and stuff. And the people look different, and they have like open markets, and it's like in the desert. It's not like town, and like you walk around, like they're all individual. And the villages are kind of the same way. Like there's probably villages that repeat each other, but as far as like a Swadian village looks different than a Vagar village. Yes.
All right, that's good. That's good game design.
A lot of people did criticize this game at first when it came out for being not very deep because of these things. Like, there's no reason you should walk around a village ever unless you're like... The only reason that it has a layout is because when it's like being attacked by bandits or something, and you go and you defend it, you fight with the farmers in the village. Yeah. Things of that nature. Let's see here. All right, now I'm going to... Should I talk about mods or should I talk about memes?
I have a question about mods and memes that we can segue into one or both. How many My Little Pony themed mods for this game are there that turn all the horses into Rainbow Dash?
Oh no.
Not
I've held off on
Googling
it, but I'm going to do it now.
You probably will find something. I personally am not a brony, so I don't know these things.
God, oh my God, it's amazing.
Of course there is, yes.
All right, I'm dropping this in Discord in a second.
Mod?
I think every pony is
Okay,
rarity.
so you've brought up a very, very good point here, which is part of why this game was able to survive the 8-year drought is because of the fact that you can mod this game to your heart's content. Really. And so Janess talked about this. He brought it up at the very beginning, is how, and again, because of the RP elements of this game, there's a lot of story you can implant in the game. And there's also plenty of mods. There's feudal Japanese mods. There's Roman mods. There's like North African conquest mods. There's fantasy mods. There's mods that allow you to decapitate people. There's mods there's Naruto mods.
Of course.
Naruto
Oh
mod?
my god, I'm really disappointed. Not many people watched, or anybody watched the SEMO meme experience videos.
I watched a couple of
Okay,
SEMO videos.
I should watch it after
Yeah,
this
but
podcast.
he basically just does like the Swadian experience, the Serenid experience, the Raider experience. I'll drink from your skull. And then like Naruto mod experience. But there's a couple notable mods, and one of them is called Prophecy of Pendor. The Prophecy of Pendor. And this mod is basically just the game, but turned up way higher. It's way harder. And there's more progression. And it's like fantasy element. And you go, and there's like Knights of the Round Table-esque thing, and they have like powers, which just means like high stats. And everything does more damage, and it's fucking crazy, and eventually like a demon army apocalypse will happen, and the demons just one-shot everything, and it's really fucking hard, and the only way possibly to play the Prophecy of Pendor is to play an archer build and never get hit by anything ever, because you will die if you get hit. Yeah. And there are a couple of mods that made it into like the base game. So Mount & Blade Warband is the Warband game, but then there's a couple of other releases they had. One of them was Napoleonic Wars. And Napoleonic Wars, I don't believe, has a single-player element to it, but there is the multiplayer element to it. And so there's a video I linked to also by YouTuber Kryken, the Napoleonic Wars musical. And basically, it's just multiplayer fuckery where everybody's around on a battlefield and there's people that play flutes and play the drums and you have muskets and you row boats down the river and you shoot each other. And there's voice chat.
I love those videos. That's
great.
So funny.
And so there's just lots of organic things that can happen. And then another one is Viking Conquest, which is also like harder than the base game. And this is single player and it takes place like on the British Isles. So if anybody watched fucking what's it called? The anime, the something saga. I'm blanking.
Vinland Saga.
The Vinland Saga.
Or something.
It is the Vinland Saga, but it's Mount & Blade instead. Yeah, and so those are the base ones. And so like a lot of the reason that this game existed was because of mods and because of multiplayer. If it was just Mount & Blade Warband, people would have been burned out in the first couple of years, probably. But it has kept the game alive and well. Sadly, like I would talk more about mods and multiplayer, but to be honest, I didn't play a lot of it. Don't ask me why. I watched
You probably just enjoy the
base game.
I
really did. There were a few mods I installed that just like increased the playability of the base game, but I never took place in a lot of like huge multiplayer siege events, which there are, or multiplayer fuckery. But I imagine it was basically just like chivalry, but the graphics were worse.
I certainly wouldn't blame you for not like adventuring out to different mods and shit, because the game's already so big on its own. And if you already enjoy
the mods make it so much bigger.
Yeah, but like you said, you didn't try it because you like the base game so much. So the few mods that you may have played, you got something out of it, but you're probably, maybe something in the back of your mind's like, and not just you, like just in general, like you could just be like, this is great, but do I really want to spend another 200 hours on this one other mod? And like, there's already so many other mods. Like, how many mods am I going to get into? How many hours is it going to be wasted?
That makes a lot of logical sense, but I have to say you may be giving me too much credit, because I think the real reason I didn't play mods was, as I mentioned, I was playing this game when I was 13 years old on an iMac, and installing mods for games was marginally harder on an Apple Mac in 2012, and so I think I just didn't bother at all. Oh well, maybe I'll do it someday.
These things happen.
But yes, I mean, lots of mischief happens online in this game, and it's a big part of why it has existed till this day. Next, though, briefly, I want to make a segue. This is about memes.
And
we finally got to the best part.
There's lots of Mount & Blade memes, but there's two I want to point out the most, and one of them will segue neatly into the last part of this podcast. The first one is butter.
Butter? What?
Oh, yes. That's one of the first. You just posted a meme in chat, and it's a good chat.
I'm just gonna find memes and post it, because
okay, good.
It's gonna be fun.
So, butter is the highest resource in Mount & Blade. It is the most sought after resource, and butter became what it is because of a quirk that happened. That happens in the game, courtesy of King Harlaus of the Swad Wads. King Harlaus is, first of all, the king of the Swadian Empire, which is great. Or the Swadian Kingdom, what the fuck ever. It's not an empire. It doesn't matter. But more than that, he is a lover of butter. Okay. And so there's a feature in this game where lords can hold a feast in their lord's hall and invite all the vassals to come and have a feast. And a common occurrence in this game is that you will be out at war with like the Khergits or the Nords or something. Oh yeah, there it is. And he will go, and in the middle of the war, he'll say, "Everybody back to Praven for a butter feast! Yeah! Woo!" And he'll just call everybody back. The Khergits and the Vagars will roll in, and they'll take like 2 castles. They'll take a city, and King Harlaus for like a month straight will just be holding a feast in Praven, which is all the way in the western side of the continent, away from the enemies. And he is the Butter Lord. The Butter Lord. And this actually is going to come up again. I mean, people have hated and have railed against King Harlaus for this behavior. But, in truth, he's a messiah for it. And you'll learn why soon. You'll learn why very soon.
You should put these memes in the recording chat, by the way. So we can find them.
There's a few other memes. One of them is the Sea Raiders, which are like the Nordic bandits. They're very hard. They have big shields and javelins. When you run into them or they run into you because they want to kill you, they go, "That's a nice head you have on your shoulders." And then they'll be like, "I'll drink from your skull," and stuff like that. And then the most important meme, because it epitomizes. It epitomizes everything of the past 8 years. And there's a big payoff with it. And it's when you go to the villages and you speak with the farmers, they say one thing and one thing only. And what they say is, "It's almost harvested season." It's almost harvested season. Yes. And
it's almost what season? I'm not.
It's almost harvesting season.
Oh, harvesting.
It's almost harvested
season. Is this the
season.
precursor to Game of Thrones? The winter is coming meme?
Nah, the winter coming. That's all the thing. But you'll say this, but they'll never say it is harvesting season. It's always just almost harvesting season.
It's always coming.
And for 8 long years, it was almost harvesting season until a month ago when it was harvesting season.
The new one has harvesting season.
Huh? I mean, it is spring, not the fall, but still.
They do?
It's harvesting season. I mean, they don't say it's harvesting season, but like metaphorically for us, the players, harvesting season has come. And so, a new game, Mountain Blade 2, Bannerlord, which I have been waiting since my childhood. I went from being a preteen and then through puberty and then post-puberty. I'm now no longer a teenager. I went through my entire teenage years waiting for this game. And now it's here.
Now you're ready.
Finally.
We're waiting for you to be ready.
Your body is ready.
It's harvesting.
It is harvesting season. And let me tell you, the game, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
So new good?
Yeah, new pretty good.
New pretty good. All right.
Bad, old not bad either. Old pretty good. New pretty good. Old pretty good.
Man, it would have been great if they made it.
We can still make good media.
If they made it harvesting season in the new one, that would have been big epic.
And so, what are the differences between Warband and Bannerlord? Now, fret not. I'm not going to spend an hour explaining it. Because, honestly, it's the same game. They really kept to their roots on this one. Even though, look, there's a few things people might say about, like, some dialogue options aren't complete. It says, like, string, not valid or something when you talk to somebody. They've had 8 years to flesh out the dialogue. Like, perks don't work. There's perks now. It's been 8 years. How's the game not done? Yeah, whatever. Okay, because the game's pretty good. And it takes place, I believe, technically, it is a prequel to Mount & Blade Warband.
Yeah, that's what I read before.
It takes place still in the land of Calradia, except we have different factions now. You have in the Western Mountains the Batanians, who are the Britons, or the whatever. They have bows and they wear war paint and stuff. And then you have, I believe they're still called the Nords. The Nords. Then you have the, they're not called the Kharadits anymore, but the Steppe people. I'm not remembering their name, but whatever. And then you have, once again, the Desert people. And then they are the best faction, by the way. And then you have, once again, the Shieldy boys that are, like, near the Batanians. It's so strange. I can't remember their names for a very good reason that we'll get to in a second. Because in the middle of the map, the vanilla faction is 3 different factions. It is the Empire. The Empire, the Roman Empire, a historically fictional version of the Empire, but it's still called the Empire. And the Empire has been broken up. The Emperor has died. And so now it is split into the Northern Empire, the Southern Empire, and I believe the Western Empire. And they all have opposing leaders that want to unify the people and be the new emperor. And one of these people is the villain of our story. A woman named Regia. Regia? No one knows. There's no pronunciation. There are many memes on Reddit, on the Mount & Blade Reddit, about how Regia is mommy. Because
Mommy?
she's kind of attractive, I guess, for the awful character models that are in Bannerlord. They are like Oblivion tier Play-Doh lumpy people, air quotes, in Bannerlord. They're presentable though.
I see.
But to me, this woman is not but a devil. Because
Yeah, because she's like the antagonist.
well, of my story, my personal story. Because I came into this world, I sat down to play, and I played for 16 hours straight as soon as I got the game. And I joined the Batanians, because I'm of Irish blood, and I was like, Britons, Batanians, close enough. And so I joined them. And by the end of my 16-hour playthrough, the Southern Empire had destroyed the Batanians. They in like not but 3 months' time, they had completely swallowed up the Batanians. And then after that, the Nords. And I went and I joined the Steppe people because that's how my hierarchy moves. Fuck the Empire. And then they swallowed up them. And at the same time, they swallowed up the Desert people. And in the first hours of my game, the Southern Empire had completely taken over the entire map.
The South rose again, as foretold.
What the fuck? What the fuck? And so, King Harlaus, everybody hated him, but it was for he spoke the truth, because now that there's no feasts, the empires just continually wage war, and if they're at a numerical advantage, they will not stop. And then they snowball until they take over the entire world. And if it wasn't for King Harlaus's butter parties, then he would just take over the entire world. And so he knew that butter truly was the savior of Calradia, for it kept balance and peace between all the kingdoms.
The broker of peace. Hey
But
guys.
we just didn't know it at the time.
Hey guys, check this out. I googled butter economy, because butter is a meme, economy is a meme, as described on this podcast. There's a macroeconomic theory called the guns versus butter model. It's like a real thing. It's like this is a thing in economics. And it sounds like butter wins in Mount & Blade. So we solved the economy. Good job.
Butter definitely does win. Alright, give me 2
Yeah,
seconds here.
it's more nourishing.
Okay, so
You can make frosting with butter. Like,
Yeah, you
how
can't make
can you beat
frosting with
that?
Yeah,
guns.
buttercream.
let's see here.
I'm not trying to come to a gun party. Not if there's a butter party.
You brought a gun to a butter party?
Bring a
Smother
butter
them
to a
in
gun
butter.
party.
So I'm trying to think. I guess before I talk, decisions. I guess no. I'll briefly mention what happened in between then and now. It's not as if there was a complete 8-year drought. I'm kind of making that up, but not quite. There was a game that came out in between the two called Mountain Blade with Fire and Sword. And Mountain Blade with Fire and Sword is actually a completely new game. It's on the same
spin-off?
engine as Warband. And this one is not historical fiction, but historical fact. Even though it's based off of a book of historical fiction of the same name with Fire and Sword, a Polish book. And this time it takes place in real, actual Europe. During, I can't exactly remember, but it's like the Poles versus the Ottoman Empire. And there are muskets in this one, so you can use guns. And the reception to this game was lukewarm at best, I guess. I don't know. It's just like
That's a shame.
something about guns, man. I really don't know. Like, the game was only okay. I didn't really play it that much.
From what I read,
It was okay. It wasn't
apparently, like part of the initial, like the normal combat is like running around with your guy on the front lines in
Yeah,
Warband. But
yeah.
with guns, apparently it's a lot less. Like, if you're in the front lines, you can just get shot and die instantly.
You do get shot off of your horse, and guns do the most damage in the game. Yeah, this does happen.
And it seems like it just throw off the dynamics of battle entirely, and that's kind of the whole point of the series, isn't it?
Yeah. I will say though, the Polish, whatever they're called, the winged hussars. There's armor in this game where they have like the cool like wings that come out the back of them, and they're on like the horse, and they have like a lance, and it looks really cool, and they have like a gun. That was pretty cool. The rest of the game, I don't know, don't really remember it. No, to be quite honest. But yeah, what's new in Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord? Really? Like I said, the game is basically the same, except now there's perks. So when you level up skills, you can get perks like plus 3% damage for slow weapons, or plus 3% damage for fast weapons, or a really good two-handed perk, which is like on successive hits, does 30% more damage if you do like a second successful hit in a row. Or, and this is very relevant, a perk in both riding and archery that allows you to use any bow on horseback. Because another thing in Warband is that there are different classes of weapons. Also in Bannerlord, where you cannot use like siege crossbows on horseback. Just don't work like that. There's certain two-handed polearms that you can't use on horseback. They're just too big. Certain shields you can't use on horseback. And so in Bannerlord, they've had perks where you can use, if you choose the perk, any bow or any crossbow on horseback. Except it doesn't work, sadly. It's been 8 years, and you still can't equip the big bow on horseback, sadly. And there's a lot of them. But really, the main addition to Bannerlord, which has gone overlooked, actually, by me included, is now there's smithing. You can create your own weapons. And by this I mean any weapon you want, of any combination, as long as it's of the same class. So there are, as you smelt down weapons, you unlock weapon parts. And so there are like sword blades of all different types, sword handles of all different types, sword hilts hilts and guards of different types, and sword pommels of different types. And you can also adjust the size of these things. You can make a really long sword with a certain blade, a really short sword with a certain blade, make the handle bigger, the whatever, and it changes all the different stats. And you can do this for axes, you can do this for pole arms, you can do this for almost any weapon in the game. Right now there's no two-handed hammers for some reason, except for a big wooden mallet. I hope there's more hammers in the game. And you can name it. And this is amazing. I don't know, this doesn't have as much weight on you guys, but this is fantastic because in Warband there were just a few good weapons. But now you can make any weapon you want, and you can call it a funny name. And sell it for a lot of money.
Yep, and that adds more to the customization.
Absolutely. You can't make any armor though, sad face.
Aww.
No armor.
Oh, that's a shame.
So it seems like, if you can make any weapon you want, you could technically make the best sword in the game right off the bat. It's just that you have to have the stats to use it rather than finding it.
I'm not I actually can't remember, but I don't think in Bannerlord. I think in Bannerlord you can just use any weapon you want.
Oh.
Actually, no, that might not be true, but basically, so smithing, there's mods for this because smithing in the base game takes way too long. It's way too hard to level up. But once you get a high enough level, you start to be able to make legendary weapons.
Oh.
And legendary weapons is exactly what they sound like. They have legendary status, they do amazing things, and they are the most expensive things in the game, and you alone can make them. Once you get your smithing high enough. I actually don't know. I have not gotten it high enough to do it because I'm playing the base game, and it's really hard. But yeah, I've made a few axes. One of them is the Disha and the Chuda, the Dick and the Chode, and they sell for like really, because they're like huge fucking axes with really short handles that are completely useless. But for some reason, they cost like 30,000 gold, and you can just sell them for a lot of money. And so, now that you have kind of a grasp of this game, I guess I'll start to wind down by talking about my experience with Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord and how I've liked it so far.
Okay.
And so, as I told you, the Southern Empire took over the entire map. The entire fucking world. In like the first 15 hours of me playing this game. It was really disappointing, to say the least. But it gave way. I mean, people on Reddit have had like the same. Not that I go on Reddit a lot, but there's discussion there. I'm like, Mount & Blade, Southern Empire took over the entire world, and the first link is like a Reddit, and like people are saying the same thing about other factions. It's a known problem. But this has given way for a redemption arc. And so, my genius move that starts my redemption arc is the Southern Empire has taken over basically the entire world, save for one city called Iacus? Iakias? I don't know. It's a desert city all the way in the southern part of the map. And it's still held by the desert people. And so I raid a village which declares war on them, and with my 300 men, I take this city and I start my empire. And so the entire map is just the Southern Empire and me in my one shit little city. And thus starts the Doshea Empire, which is like my last name, I guess. Because he's some Briton fuck, so it's like a EAGH kind of name. And so a really important thing to mention is that now in Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord, the amount of well, first of all, the graphics look a lot better, and there's like really cool lighting effects and stuff, and the landscapes actually look unironically beautiful. But
no doubt.
The better part is that now, instead of only allowing like 200 units on screen, there can be 1,000 units on screen at any given time.
Oh boy.
That's pretty crazy.
It does take a lot of computing power, I'm not going to lie, even at the lowest settings. But my laptop, which I've been wanting to sell, but I haven't yet, does have like a GTX 1050, and it's basically able to handle it. And so I basically start my conquest of guerrilla warfare against the Southern Empire, where basically I go around to their villages that they own in the desert part of the map. I recruit peasants. I go around. Oh, and a key meta element of Bannerlord is that there are packs of what are called looters. And looters are just shit guys that are like wearing burlap sacks. And they're like, hey, give me all your money. And then they like suck and then you kill them. And this is like the first units you fight. And they can sometimes spawn in groups of like up to like 70, 80 if you're really lucky. But a lot of times you'll see like a 30 group if you're lucky enough. And the 30 groups are really slow. And if you auto battle, there are like you don't have to fight battles. It's the same in Warband. You can just auto battle, but usually the odds are not in your favor, and the computer thinks you suck, and so you die. But the looters don't have the ability to kill your men. They just knock them unconscious, and then they become wounded. Sorry, and they have to heal up. And so basically, you just recruit men, fight looters, auto battle. Your men level up, none of them die, and you build an army. And then my guerrilla warfare strat is I pillage a town, so the Southern Empire becomes war with me. I take over a city, and then I immediately make peace.
Oh no.
Before anybody gets any chance to like come and take all of my shit. And I slowly build up. And this has been the past 100 hours of my game. Slowly build up, take a city, maybe two, make peace. Basically, you just bribe them to make peace. You give them like 30,000 gold, which is not a lot, and you give them any prisoners you have. And I'm recruiting the lost souls of dead empires to join me, and eventually, I can wage all-out war against the Southern Empire. And so for the last 20 hours of my game, it has just been me having all of like the western mountains and southern desert fighting the Southern Empire, which has the middle of the map, the east of the map, and like the north of the map. And in the past 20 hours, I'm happy to report that they're almost all fucking dead.
Yeah!
Hooray!
Yeah, you gamed the system.
And I think in total, like 200,000 men have died on both sides, or something like that, between all the vassals fighting war. But the strategy that I think really tipped the odds in my favor and allowed me to complete this was something that was added in Bannerlord. Actually, no, it might have been in Warband. Doesn't really matter. Key point is, in both of the games, you can take prisoners. When you kill an enemy, there's a chance you don't kill him, you knock him unconscious. If you use a blunt weapon, that's all the time.
Wait, there's a chance? Like, how do you accidentally not kill a person?
So in Bannerlord, they become wounded, but in Warband, they would just, like, be unconscious.
Okay.
And in Bannerlord, like, if you hit them with a blunt weapon, like a hammer or a mace or something, they would be unconscious. And when they're unconscious, you can take them prisoner. And this is also, I can't believe I didn't mention this before, but it's a huge part of Warband, is selling your prisoners to the ransom broker, who appears in the tavern at night.
Oh, that's so fucked up.
Oh no.
Oh, yes. So a big part of early game Warband, if you want to be a dickhead, is just raiding villages, pillaging them, and then fighting people, taking them prisoner, and selling them as slaves. Or just for ransom. You know, you don't really care what happens to them. But in Bannerlord, you can do the same thing. It's actually a lot more central part of the game. They've basically refined they've smoothed over all the hard edges of the game, and it's basically the same. But lords and vassals cannot die in combat. They just become unconscious, they either escape, they become prisoner, you pay a ransom, and then they go, and then they get an army and they fight again. Unless you cut their fucking head off and you kill them. Which you can do if you take them prisoner. And And so, really, the way I've won this war is whenever I encounter an enemy, I say, hey, your queen isn't worth your loyalty. Come join me. And they either say yes or no. And if they say no, I capture them and I execute them. and then they can't make an army anymore because they're fucking dead. And at this point in the game, I believe I still need to play it, but the Southern Empire only has like 5 towns left. And I have murdered like 10 whole clans of people. I've executed like 50 people. And again, I think there was like some talk about relations before and how much it mattered, but when you execute somebody, anybody that's friends with this person immediately gets maximum negative relationship with you.
Oh my god. You're the ultimate antagonist.
Oh yes, now I have a stat called devious, which is I have negative 200 percent honor, or my trust is
you
negative 2.
unlocked devious.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter.
Omelet, you got to break a few eggs.
No, honestly, yeah, but it also, strangely enough, it doesn't matter. Most of my vassals, most of the people that are pledged allegiance to me, hate my fucking guts because I've executed like one of their like tangent, like their sister's husband is friends with this guy.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo,
Just
exactly.
human life.
Oh.
Wait,
Just cut their head off.
your in-game name started with D, right?
My name, I'll type it in chat. It's an interesting name. But it is pronounced Kaesic Doshea.
So you're the devious Doshea. Oh.
Yeah, actually. And I'm part of the Doshea Empire. And my final move, and I have captured the Empress Regea on the battlefield many times before, but I have not elected to execute her, because instead I will execute all of her friends and family before I execute her.
Oh
man,
I have executed her daughter in front of her very eyes. I've executed all of her friends, and finally, as I hold her up in the last city that she has, I will storm the walls, I will take it over, I will capture her, and I will execute her.
Perfect redemption.
That's a climatic
it's
ending.
not. Here's the thing. It's not even the ending.
That's the beginning.
I think this is the beginning.
I've only just begun to rape and pillage.
You actually don't understand, okay? Because as a feature that I've been avoiding with a little bit of save scumming is that the only thing that matters with relation is that sometimes your vassals will defect from your empire and leave. And so I imagine the arc goes something like, I take over the entire world with these vassals I've hired and gotten to defect from the enemy side, and then they start to defect from me. And they start to want their castle from themselves and not to pay taxes to me. And I'll notice that I only actually have like 2 real friends. And so I will leave my own empire, and I will just execute everybody in the entire fucking world until there's nobody left.
Can you do that? Can you kill literally everyone and there's not people anymore?
Yes.
Oh man, have you done that before?
No, this is my first playthrough.
But
I've
I mean,
been playing,
in the old one or anything. Like,
in
have
the old
an empty
one,
world.
there was still spawn, just like regular like bandits and brigands and farmers and like NPCs. But as far as like named characters, I'm pretty sure you can kill all of them except for like the nobles, like the noble women and stuff that you can't actually capture in combat. So, I really look forward to it. I really look forward to killing everybody. Oh, and I think the main improvement of Bannerlord over Warband is that the combat just feels so much meatier. There's just so much more of a punch to it. Like, when I do a drive-by on a horse and I cleave somebody with a glaive, it's like I'm really cutting them in half. There's still as much screaming as before. There's still
gotta have that battlefield glory.
Die, all the noises. Probably
Just
actually
into a microphone.
And this is also coincidentally and also by fate the same time that Doom Eternal has come out.
Oh yeah.
And I realized that the soundtrack to this game is really good. It's really good. Mick Gordon makes some good music. And I will tell you that being on the battlefield with 1,000 men and riding past on a horse, cleaving 3 men through at a time with my axe, with just a bow, 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 Doom Eternal music playing is a really good feeling.
Oh, you
really
said
nice.
that you're saying the music from Doom Eternal was good.
Oh yeah, no, but I also would play the Doom Eternal soundtrack and wade through seas of enemies as I bathe in their blood with the music playing in Bannerlord, and it fits really well.
Oh, so you just play both at the same time?
Memories.
Well, I think we can learn from your story, pushing the South back. You can achieve your dreams, kids. You can do anything you want as long as you're willing to kill a few 100,000 people.
Yep.
Don't let anyone tell you no.
Yep.
Follow your dreams. Do whatever it takes.
Yep, don't let
And
your
so
dreams be mean.
this truly is probably, maybe, the essence of Mountain Blade Warband. Or Mountain Blade in general, not even Warband. The essence of Warband is,
death.
murder is fun. Number
Gets you what you want.
Number big number, make number bigger. Dopamine.
Or number smaller.
Maybe number smaller. Number smaller. Number change. Good game. And also, other serious stuff about like being able to implement your own story onto a medium, especially when this medium doesn't have any excessive things that it uses to give you its own story. It's all show, don't tell. And so because of this, I've been able to organically orchestrate my own story of my character. I haven't even told you. Part of the reason my character is so filled with rage is that I married a lovely woman named Ali Jean.
Oh no, I don't like where this is going already.
Ali G?
Ali Jean, and she was a step woman, the son of the king of the stepmen. She's actually a character. She was the prettiest I could find. And I also envisioned marrying a strong Kazakh woman in some point in my life, and she bore me 7 great children.
Wait. Oh, before you could make children, but now in this game you can.
Yes. Okay. Too many children, almost, really.
So you can go full Genghis Khan mode and like populate the earth entirely with your own brood.
Yes, but I don't think you can remarry, but there's probably a mod for that. But
can you have to be married to make kids?
Yes, basically you walk around with your wife.
What's the
and your
point of
party.
raping then? Shit.
I don't know if you can rape, but she'll just become pregnant and then give birth.
No way I'm playing this game.
And then, as she gave birth to my 7th child, my 3rd son, Ergion, she died of childbirth.
What?
She died.
Damn, what a twist.
And I became so subsumed with rage that I took it out on the Empire. And now I've killed thousands of men with my own hands.
They deserve it, honestly.
And the interesting
part
of
their
this
fault,
game,
really.
Oh yeah. In-game time, it's been around 15 years. since the start. And your children actually will grow up, and when they turn 18, they will become like characters. And I think your character will die of old age at some point, and you will go on playing as like your firstborn child.
Oh wow!
Damn.
Okay, so you can play forever if you want to.
Yes.
That's kind of insane.
I think my oldest child right now is like 9 or something like that. Maybe she's 11. I don't fucking know. I don't see her that often.
Too busy murdering everybody.
It is a girl, so obviously who would give a shit?
Yeah. Good game. What was the? I can't remember why I brought that up, but
Why
oh
not
yeah.
bring
So
it up?
just the point of I've been able to implant my own story onto this game. And even though it's just basically a sandbox, and that's the fucking beauty of it. Because on my first playthrough, I have this story arc of just wanting to live a simple life, fighting for the Battanians, which were my cultural heritage. And the Southern Empire, in their hubris, wanted to take over the entire world, which they almost succeeded at, and for that, I have punished them. And I have driven them, and I have executed all of them. And then maybe I have become exactly what I sought to destroy. Who knows? Mount & Blade's a good game. You should play it. Mount & Blade Warband is very cheap. You can pirate it, surely. And Mount & Blade 2 watch content. It's a great game. That's all I have to say. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just love
I'm not
how
here.
you explain. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just saying that I don't think I have any questions.
I was just gonna say, like, I really like this whole last segment of this podcast is you just talking about your own story, because you just make it sound that much more like a single player Dungeons and Dragons sort of deal.
It kind of is.
Because there is no like actual story being told. It's a story you make up as you go.
Yeah, there is a small plot line of like, it's called Bannerlord because there's like a quest in the beginning where you have to like find 3 different pieces of the banner of like what used to be the King of Calradia, and the King of Calradia could never be defeated in battle, and then you raise the banner as your own banner, and you can either pledge allegiance to somebody or start your own empire. And that's why you are the Banner Lord. Blah, blah, blah. Butter Lord is better. The game.
Better Lord.
Butter. Better butter. Yes. Anybody else? I noticed Friggin had to go, maybe quietly, silently, into the night.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun game. Like, I just don't have the time for it, but if I did, maybe I would actually be interested in it.
Mm. You can play Warband on any shitty old computer, also.
One very small question. It's something I meant to ask earlier, but I didn't care enough. But like you were talking about how they're like caravans. Is there ever is there like a mechanic where like it can be like a false caravan and be like a Trojan horse, where if you try and like loot it, like maybe like people will come out and try and kill you?
Nah, not really.
That'd be interesting.
Because like on the overworld map, like you see how many units any party has in it. And caravans just have like caravan guards, which are fairly strong units. So you have to know what you're doing to fight a caravan.
Oh, okay, so it's not so easy. Okay.
No. Right. Well, if nobody... Oh, is there...
I don't know. I was just going to say this... I mean, I definitely want to play this game now.
Good.
I don't know. It goes on... It occasionally goes on sale for like $2 or something.
Yes! This is what I'm
like
saying!
Steam
Summer Sale! Steam Summer Sale!
It definitely seems like Warband is the way to go, because it seems like playing Bannerlord would maybe like spoil some of the Warband stuff, just because...
I don't know, maybe like... My perception of Bannerlord is heavily influenced by Warband. And it, like I said, it's basically the same game with some quality of life improvements, and the combat is different. It's fundamentally the same, but it's still different. And Warband's just the classic. Like either way, definitely play Warband.
And Bannerlord costs like $50.
Yeah, it is a AAA game. Okay, well, if nobody has anything else, I think that was my content. This has been Crash Content, Mount & Blade, with Kyrie. I hope you all enjoy. I hope you all go and play Mount & Blade. I can't believe so many people here have not heard of this game. It's such a good game. It's
also such a time sink.
It is, but so is life. Quarantine, not doing anything anyways.
You only
blah,
got
blah,
so
blah.
much time.
Just put in a couple hundred hours. Okay, it's not that much.
100, whatever. I mean, I play Kingdom Hearts and shit, so I can't say I don't put a lot of hours into games.
Right.
Although half of that's like cutscenes, but whatever.
Until next time, everybody, I don't know what's going to be next, but it's not going to be by me, hopefully. Bye!
Bye.
See you, everybody.
Bye.